Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Math Made Easy with Terry in 10 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna go straight to equation of a straight line or the straight line equation. So in this video, I'm gonna give an overview of the four types or the four major forms of the equation of a straight line. Then in the subsequent videos, I'm gonna be picking each of them and we're gonna be solving questions on them, okay? So if you've not subscribed or you've not turned on the notification bell yet, I don't know what you're waiting for, okay? And if you have any question, feel free to email me or contact me and I will get back to you. All right, let's get straight into it, okay? Now, the equation of a straight line is basically a linear equation in two variables, usually x and y, and is satisfied by every point on the line. So that means if you have a particular line, all the points of the line are going to satisfy this linear equation. All right, so I'm going to write it here. And please try as much as possible to review the previous video, because in the previous video, I talked about the coordinate system. I've talked about the distance between 2 points. I've talked about the midpoints as well. And we're going to talk about the equation of a straight line. All right. So now when we talk about the equation of a straight line, I'm going to write it down. So for some of you that are writing, so that you have the notes as well. So the equation of a straight line. The equation of a straight line. Okay. It's a linear. It's a linear equation. All right. In two variables. So usually we do this linear equation in terms of x and y. All right. In two variables, okay? Usually x and y. Okay, and is satisfied by every point on the line. So that means if, for instance, I have this line, let's say I have this line AB, okay? Line AB from point line A to B. If I decide to select a point here, and that point here, and that point here, so I select point P, point Q, point R on this line, okay? If I calculate the equation of a line for point P, I'll still get the same thing. For point Q, I'm going to get the same thing. And for point R, I'm going to get the same thing. Is that making sense? So, and each of them have their coordinates, right? All to infinity. So all the points on the line is going to satisfy this. So what happens now is that generally we have four major forms, okay? We have four major forms. All right, there could be more, but in this video, I'm going to focus on the major ones, okay? The four major forms. The first one is what we call the slope-intercept form. The slope-intercept form. Now, this is what generally, I think is one of the most popular one. It's what we call the y is equal to mx plus c. Okay, this is what we call the slope-intercept form. Now, the slope-intercept form is usually referred to as the general equation of a straight line. So usually referred to as, okay, it's usually referred to as the general equation of a straight line. So usually when you hear something like the general equation of a straight line, we always refer to the y is equal to mx plus c, okay? So where the m, remember the m from the last video, is the slope or gradient, okay? Now the c is what we call the y-intercept. Okay, so for those that missed my video on y and x-intercept, when we talk about an intercept, so if for instance you have a line, like this. Let's call this line AB, okay? So an y-intercept, this is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis, okay? A y-intercept is the point where the line touches the what? The y-axis. Are you seeing it? So this is a y-intercept. If, for instance, a negative slope, you could see this also here is also the what? The y-intercept. So basically, the y-intercept is where the line touches the y-axis. Okay, where the line touches the y-axis. And also, for those that have watched my previous video for y and x-intercept, I told you at y-intercept, x is equal to 0. So just to add it here, okay? We've talked about that before. So for those that missed my video on the x and y-intercept, please go back and have a look at it. So basically, what we talked about, the slope-intercept form, is the general equation of a line. And it has the m, which is the slope, and c is the y-intercept. And x and y are the coordinates. Is that okay? Or the coordinates you want to look at. So that's the first one, the slope-intercept form. Number 2, the second one is what we call the point-slope form. Okay, the point-slope form. All right, don't worry. The subsequent videos is gonna be talking about each of these individually, okay? But in this video, I just want to list all the 4 forms of an equation of a line that we're going to be encountering throughout this video series, okay? So the next one is what we call the point slope form, okay? It's usually written as the form of y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. So it's always written like this, equals to y minus y1 is equal to m minus x1. But usually, when we are done with the point slope form, we usually convert it back to the general form, which is y equals mx plus c, the slope-intercept form. So the first form is the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus c. The second form is the point slope form. Usually, when we're done writing this point slope form, we try to simplify it back to this slope-intercept form, okay? So when we use this point slope form, when we use this, it's only when we have 1 point and 1 slope. Is that okay? So it's only, we use this when you have, okay? When you have 1 point, so you have only 1 point. So they only gave you 1 point. That is, they only gave you x1 and y1, okay? And they also gave you the what? The slope. So that means when you give you the 1 point or the x1 and y1, and they also gave you the slope or gradient, okay? So they gave you the slope or gradient, so slope, okay? So when they gave you, when you have the 1 point and you have the slope, then you use this one, okay? Then usually, like I said, after you're done, so after which, you rearrange back to the y equals mx plus c. So you arrange back to the slope-intercept form. So you arrange to the y is equal to mx plus c, all right? So usually when you are done substituting and you rearrange it back into the y equal to mx plus c. All right, so from the formula, we have y minus y1 is equal to mx minus x1. So where m is equal to the slope or gradient, okay? Then we also have the x1 and the y1. So this is equal to the given point. So remember we said in this case, we have just 1 point, all right? Now we're done with the 2. So we've talked about the point slope form and we've talked about the slope-intercept form. Now the third one we'll talk about now is what we call the 2-point form. The 2-point form, okay? Now, this is technically the same thing as the point slope form, but instead of having m, so remember in the previous video, I told you that the slope is equal to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? So it's exactly the same thing, but instead of us having the m here, we're going to substitute the m with y2 minus y1 divided by what? X2 minus x1. So that means we're going to have the same thing, y minus y1, but instead of having the m, we're going to have y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, and we're going to still maintain x minus what? x1. Are you seeing it? Then, as usual, when you're done, you then rearrange it and leave it in the form of the slope-intercept form, which is y is equal to mx plus c. So back to the question now. So we have this one. So we have the point slope form. But when do we use this? So you use this. You use when, okay, number one, you have 2 points, all right? You have 2 points. So that means in this question, they gave you the x1 and they gave you the y1, and also they gave you the what? The x2 and y2. But in that question as well, no slope. So that means technically no slope was given. All right. So when you have only the 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2, then you have to use the 2-point slope. Then after that, you then have to rearrange it, okay? You have to then rearrange to the slope-intercept form to y is equal to mx plus c, okay? So as you already know, where in this case, the x1, y1, this is the first point, okay? And also we have the x2, y2 is the what? Second point. So in this case, like I said, you have 2-point form. In the 2-point form, is exactly the same thing as the previous one, which was the point slope form, but instead we're just substituting it with the formula already we know for m to be y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus what? x1. Then the next one, when you've now substituted it, but in this case with the 2 points, what happens is that we only have 2 points. We only have the x1 and the y1, and x2 and the y2. The slope is not given. So because the slope is not given, we're now replacing the formula for slope with the formula for y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So that means in this question, you have 2 points and no slope was given. Okay. So we're going to go to the next one now. The next one is what we call the standard form. So the standard form, which is number 4. So we have the standard form. So the standard form, we have it as ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. So this is what we call the standard form, is ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. So now, this is very simple. It's basically similar to what we've talked about, but the only difference is that when we've gotten to the y is equal to mx plus c, okay, the slope-intercept form, the first one we talked about, the slope-intercept form. Now, what you do is that you tend to rearrange the slope-intercept form by taking all the variables to one side, okay? So that means in this case, for instance, I'm going to solve it. You take the mx to the other side, so it'll be minus mx, then plus y, then you take c to the other side, minus c is equal to 0. Or you take y to meet everything on the other side, it will be mx minus y plus c is equal to 0. So this is what we call the slope-intercept form. So basically what happens in the slope-intercept form is that you are rearranging. But the only difference here is that the coefficient of x definitely is the slope. So that means, for instance, if we have y is equal to, let's give an example, 3x plus 5, and you were told to leave your answer in the standard form, what do? You take the 3x to the other side, so it's going to be minus 3x plus y minus 5 is equal to what? 0. So this is what we call the standard form. As you can see, okay? Or you can decide to take y to the other side. So it's going to give us 3x minus y plus 5 is equal to 0. Are you seeing it? And this is what we call the standard form. So that means in this case now, if you look at this, our a is what? Minus 3. So the a is basically the number in front of x. The b is the number in front of y. In this case, it's 1. And the c is going to be minus 5. Are you seeing it? In this case, our a is 3, our b is minus 1, and our c is what? 5. So basically, in the standard form, what you're just doing, you are rearranging it. So you are rearranging the slope-intercept form with all the variables and constant on one side. But usually, what usually happens is that we're always being told that A, B, C are what? Integers, all right? I'm going to talk about this in the video. So usually, most times, A, B, and C, in most questions, they will make sure that they are integers. And I'm going to show you how to write that. So these are the 4 major types. So we have the slope-intercept form, okay, which is y is equal to mx plus c. We have the point slope form, which is y minus y1, mx minus x1. So in this form, you only have 1 point and the slope, okay? In the 2-point form, you have the 2 points, but slope was not given. So you use the y minus y1, y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, x minus x1. And the standard form, we have the ax plus by plus c, all right? So regardless of the form, regardless of if it's a standard form, usually we always prefer to write our answers in the slope-intercept form, unless the question suggests otherwise, okay? So in the subsequent videos, I'm going to be talking about each of these ones, okay, each of this form. And also after that, I'm going to just go straight and talk about the parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and point of intersections, okay? So the next video I'm going to start with the slope-intercept form. I'm going to talk about the slope-intercept form, all right? So I'm going to see you in the next video. And if you've not subscribed, I don't know what you're waiting for. Click on the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I will see you soon.